Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Reincarnation for All. I Can Amplify Everything. Chapter 86. No, you have to stop first. Otherwise, if I continue, my life seeds will have to be withered by the power of the magic source. Su Hao's expression froze slightly. Hastily used his mental power to move the life seeds out of the centers of the 5 magic sources, and at the same time suppress the riots of the magic sources with one mind and 2 purposes. Finally, at the moment when the seed of life leaves, the source of magic was silent in silence as if nothing had happened. The original calm was restored. However, Su Hao's life seeds were somewhat withered. There are also 5 elements of wind, thunder, light, darkness, and fire attached to it, which are constantly destroying Su Hao's life seeds. It seems that if Su Hao doesn't want to solve it, the life seeds will start to wither along with the erosion of power, until it disappears. After all, it was still affected. Su Hao thought with a bit of embarrassment on his face. He didn't expect that the source of magic and the seed of life are like 2 distinct countries. There is only one choice between life and death, and they cannot depend on each other at all. Can only exist alone. Do not touch each other. Just the action just now caused Su Hao's life seeds to be greatly damaged. The nourishment of the source of magic, not to mention not being able to achieve it, on the contrary almost destroyed his life seeds. What is the reason that makes the source of magic resist life seeds like this? Su Hao wondered. In the incident just now, the seed of life has always been silent, trying to make friends with the source of magic. However, the source of magic is like a naughty child who doesn't know how to repent, crazily bullying the seeds of life, and has no intention of accepting the seeds of life at all, only endless destruction and destruction. Forget it, try again later. Su Hao thought weakly. The current state of the seeds of life cannot withstand the second persecution of the source of magic. Not to mention, there are 5 sources of magic, and they are different elements. Under this kind of injury, the life seed can last until Su Hao removes him from the source of magic, already relying on the strength of the paladin cultivation method. If he persisted for a while, the life seed condensed by Su Hao would have withered long ago, and then affected his life. The existence of life seeds is different from the source of magic. The life seed cultivated by the knight has already bound his own life to it. Once the life seed dies, the person will die with it in a short time. Life. Something seemed to come to Su Hao's mind. The difference between the seed of life and the source of magic is that the seed of life combines the life source of the extraordinary and the power of the knight. Among them, although there is actually a difference between knight power and elemental power, the difference is not that big. On the contrary, it should be because of the combination of the life of the extraordinary that the source of magic rioted wildly. After all, the source of magic is a dead thing, which was born by the evolution of elemental power. A corresponding magic elf will be born. However, that can only appear above the sanctuary. Below the sanctuary, it is impossible for a 7th level transcendent to give birth to elemental spirits in the source of magic. Perhaps, it is because of the origin of life that the disintegration and rejection of the 2 different cultivation systems are promoted. Thinking of this, Su Hao finally understood the reason for the repulsion of the 2 forces. It lies in the origin of life contained in the seed of life. Elemental spirits can only be born in the sanctuary, so how can I reflect part of the abilities of the elemental spirits below the sanctuary in another way, so that the source of magic can accept the existence of life seeds? This is a puzzle. If he can't solve it now, it will be even more difficult to use the source of magic after arriving in the sanctuary. Because the seeds of life at that time will inevitably appear in new forms. Thus, it is even more difficult for the 2 forces to complement each other. Even impossible to achieve. Why don't we wait for Mingwang Qingyi to come and see how to solve this problem with her? Su Hao gave up thinking. A person's thinking is limited. With more cognition, the inherent framework will become more ingrained, which is why people need to communicate to promote civilization and knowledge. Only by communicating and reciprocating, can we get what we lack from certain cognitions of others. Man has only one thought. But after communicating with each other, there will be 2 thoughts. Then let's focus on the spirit prayer technique. Su Hao said, forcefully mobilizing his attention to the spirit prayer technique that Huang Qinghua had prepared for him. Flipping through a book of prayers for the gods. Su Hao could see that although these spirit prayers all had the same ability, however, the methods and principles of the display are fundamentally different. It seems to be a system of two worlds. Just like the seed of life, the source of magic. Essentially different. However, compared to the two, the spirit prayer technique gave Su Hao a great understanding. From it, like a hodgepodge, he combined the centers of various God prayer techniques and only took the essence of them. The two new God prayers were successful. And there are only two gods pointed to. They are all the evil god identities that Su Hao and Huang Qingyi are about to reveal in Saint Laurent continent. The true creator. Abyss Demon Queen. Backquote. Ding, do you want to consume 20 years of life to use the growth of all things on the target? Use. Su Hao responded lightly. Ding, trigger a 70-fold increase, and the multiplicity of the prayer of the Abyss gods is amplified into the Abyss prayer. Ding, is it consuming 20 years of life to use all things to increase the target? Ding, trigger a 70-fold increase, and the multiplicity of the Creator God's prayer is the Creator's prayer. That's right, it's exactly as I imagined, and it also added, Li's Jiao, the method of how to gain the belief of believers. Su Hao flipped through the amplified God prayer technique in his hand, with a smile in his eyes. When he was writing the prayer of the gods, some descriptions and uses related to beliefs have been added, which is equivalent to turning pure prayers of gods into an encyclopedia for cultivating gods. It not only contains information about how the gods absorb believers' beliefs, but also how to entrust dreams to believers, perform God-given abilities, and perform miracles. Does this mean that I have discovered the new ability of the augmentation system? Su Hao thought with a smile. Su Hao is doing a big favor. At the same time, it also made Su Hao discover another ability of the augmentation system. That is, you can use the increase to improve your own creation. But the premise is that it must be within the acceptance range of the augmentation system. Chapter 87. Spirit Prayer. Are you really praying to the gods? This is too. Isn't it incredible? The next day, in the study, Huang Qingyi was holding her Abyss prayer art in her hand, with her small cherry-like mouth slightly opened, frantically flipping through the Abyss prayer art in her hand. Every time I look at the above content, even Huang Qingyi felt shocked. When will a person be able to write a new one with only a few books of prayer to the gods? Is there even a corresponding way to use it? Is this really human? Huang Qingyi looked at Su Hao in shock. Isn't it incredible? Su Hao chuckled and explained. You can understand that this is a kind of talent of mine. Through my own learning, I can deduce, reverse, add, and modify on the original basis, make up. It is precisely because of this ability that I was able to obtain the SSS rating in the two reincarnation worlds. So it's like this, you actually have such an enviable talent, it's really a bit enviable. Yuan Qingyi looked at it in disbelief. Has the ability to innovate 817. It's no wonder that Su Hao has developed so well in the previous two worlds. Every time can get the evaluation of SSS level. With such talent, coupled with Su Hao's delicate layout, how could it be impossible for him to be noticed? It seems that I really made a choice this time. Boss, you have to bring me that SSS level evaluation. Huang Qingyi said jokingly, feeling more and more interested in the evaluation of this reincarnation mission. She really wanted to know what kind of evaluation she would get in this mission with Su Hao. Is it also SSS grade? If it is SSS level, this is the first time in her life, and it is also the first time with Su Quan. Okay, I'll take you. Su Hao responded. Instead, he turned his gaze to Huang Qingyi. Said solemnly, we already have the spirit prayer technique, and we can start to secretly plant the roots of believers. As for how to develop, I have also told you in the previous plan. Well, I know what you said. First develop our faith from backland slums, or from relatively dark places. 11. Huang Xingyi nodded knowingly. All these, she saw from the documents Su Hao gave yesterday. Develop followers of evil gods from the bottom of the population and harvest faith. Now, with Su Hao's spirit prayer technique, it is much easier. Through the dreaming technique, the root seed of faith can be carried out in the dreams of living beings, and the belief is not spread on the spot. It only needs to perform the dreaming technique from a distance to obtain believers and the source of belief. With the birth of believers, with the independent help of believers, they will develop believers for the gods and spread beliefs. It's just a little bit of work in the early stage. Yes, but with our current strength, we can only carry out a dream to spread the faith up to 3 times a day, and each time we can only appear in the dreams of 5 people at the same time. Su Hao nodded and said. Although the spirit prayer technique has been increased by him. However, under the insufficient strength of the two, it is difficult to display the true dream of the gods. Under the mighty power of the gods, it is enough to make everyone in a city be pulled into his own dream by him. However, Su Hao and Huang Qingyi can only enter other people's dreams, subtly change their dreams, and spread their beliefs. This is all because of the weakness of strength. Remember, don't expose yourself. Aren't you worried about what I do? I'm not a newcomer, but I'm much more experienced than you. Huang Qingyi said with a smile. However, Su Hao still had a serious look, and said, no matter how many times you have passed through the reincarnation world, we must treat it as if it was the first time, and be careful when sailing for thousands of years. Only by being careful, we can get the highest level of SSS rating in this world. After speaking, Su Hao silently added a sentence in his heart. Of course, except for my plugin. That's what you said. Huang Qingyi nodded in agreement. Let the magic source nourish the seeds of life. Do you think it is at the root of life? Yes, I think the reason for the rejection is the essence of life condensed in the seeds of life. Su Hao said. If it weren't for the source of life contained in the seed of life, I really can't think of any external factors that make the source of magic so resistant. You're right. After all, the source of magic is born from the power of elements. It's a dead thing between reality and nothingness. It's impossible to hold the seeds of life. Huang Qingyi said in agreement, her right hand resting on her jaw, thinking about it. If death repels life, I can't think of any good way to let the source of magic nourish the seeds of life. This problem is very difficult. That's why I need you to open my mind for me. Su Hao rolled his eyes, thinking angrily. Originally thought that Huang Qingyi had something to do. As a result, we chatted for a long time. That's it. Su Hao was a little disappointed, but there was nothing he could do. After all, the seed of life and the source of magic were both cultivation systems of the Saint Laurent continent. Perhaps it was not because of the power of the source of life that there was an instinctive rejection between the two. Perhaps it is some kind of unknown rule that does not allow the relationship between the two. At least, this state should be maintained until breaking through the sanctuary. It's impossible, isn't it? Is it possible that you still think that I, who was reincarnated on the same day as you, can solve the problems that the ancestors in the Saint Laurent continent couldn't solve? Huang Qingyi spread her hands helplessly, expressing her helplessness. And what she said was true. It is a problem that not even the outstanding people in Saint Laurent continent can solve. How could she, a reincarnated person who came here to practice, solve it? In the end, Su Hao had no choice but to give up this difficult problem. And in the evening, Huang Qingyi left. It was night time. When everyone fell into sleep, Su Hao woke up from his own room. A faint flame burned at his fingertips. Under the light of the fire, Su Hao lit the lamp in the room. Huang Qingyi sighed. It should start soon, right? Su Hao thought lightly. Today is the beginning of him and Huang Qingyi starting to promote the belief of evil gods in the kingdom of Intis. They are also playing chess pieces in order to intervene in the battle of the gods in the future. Thinking, Su Hao also began to promote his beliefs in backland based on the dreaming technique in the creator's prayer technique. Entrusting the dream to perform. Su Hao seemed to be out of his body, seeing another self in the room, as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. Su Hao didn't pay much attention to it. As the thoughts drifted away, the soul seemed to be divided into 5 equal parts and drifted towards 5 directions. My believers, welcome the coming of God. Chapter 88. That night, under the night where the stars were like water and the moon was like fog, a faint silvery white sprinkled on Backland's body, putting on a gorgeous wedding dress for the capital of this kingdom with a long history. In the silent night, there was no noise, no quarrels during the day. To the north of Backland is an area close to the sea. This is Backland's pier, and it is also an important maritime military base for the kingdom of Intis. Backland's most powerful marine troops and ships are deployed here. The visiting cruise caravans are also here when they pass by Backland. The prosperity of military and commercial integration. However, under this prosperous background, it is built by relying on the flesh and blood of the poor. Every day, an unknown number of poor people live a miserable life because the last meal is not enough to eat, and the next meal is not found. This is a world full of luxury, and it is also a sheer field where death is buried. Sometimes, some poor people will be taken away by believers of certain evil god churches and become living sacrifices to welcome the coming of the gods. In this situation, the life of the poor is even more difficult. Even miserable people can only be like underground rats, sleeping in the sewers and under the overpass. Only when the sun rises every day, they will get up early to see if there is any suitable temporary work nearby, so that they can feed themselves today or tomorrow. And now, a few places, a few people are sitting with the same dream. They have fallen into a seemingly beautiful world where there is no high or low, everyone is equal, and there is no class at all. Is this the kingdom of heaven? Isn't it a dream? It's so real. Hardy, who was sleeping, looked at the world in front of him in shock. The chicken leg in his hand was still so crispy, as if it was tempting him to eat the food in his hand. In this heavenly world that only existed in legends, Hardy couldn't believe that he would appear here. Does that mean I'm going to die? Hardy said with a pale face. The world in front of him is not what he could have imagined at all. Everyone is equal. Perhaps only the kingdom of gods of the Orthodox Church can exist. And these poor people with low status, no one to collect their bodies even after death, and those poor people who can be cremated in any place, are even more unqualified to pick them up, and they are even valued by the gods, and they can enter the world of the gods after death. So, the only possibility, it is that he is dead, and here, perhaps, is the dream he longed for the most before he died, and he is living in a dream. Then, in a sweet dream, he died with his last wish fulfilled. If I gave you power, what would you want to do? Ordinary mortals. At this time, Hardy, who thought he was about to die, was surrounded by a faint sound that seemed to be remembered from all over the world, like a 3D stereo sound, with an ethereal and sacred texture, which made people unable to resist pilgrimage. Yes, it's a pilgrimage. When Hardy felt this emotion, he found that in this heaven-like world, countless living people who looked like real people to him cast their eyes on the sky. In the blue sky, on an illusory inverted cross, hangs a god with outstretched wings whose face cannot be seen clearly. On both sides of him, dozens of 12-winged archangels held angel longswords, like the guards of the gods, hovering around the god on the inverted cross in the sky. God, I actually dreamed of a true god. Hardy stared wide-eyed at the gods in the sky, and the 12-winged archangels. God, he actually dreamed of a real god. Hardy watched in disbelief. Similarly, Hardy still had fear spreading in his heart. Gods, for them, are almost unattainable beliefs. However, he saw the god now, and looked at the god Hardy who appeared with a slight fear in his heart. The deity who hangs the cross upside down. It is not in the description of Orthodox gods at all. If you look at the upside-down cross god, you will know that it is an evil god. A deity who knows no good or bad. Uneasy thoughts spread in Hardy's heart. Respected God, Hardy is willing to offer you his faithful faith. Hardy suppressed the fear in his heart, and knelt tremblingly in front of the upside-down cross god in front of him. He couldn't determine which evil god the god in front of him was. But I know that before God, I must express my humble side, otherwise I am waiting for death. 0 for flowers. 0. The gods should not be despised or despised. In this way, it will only attract the punishment of the gods. Even if it is an evil god, Hardy, who is an ordinary person, knows this, and he dare not slack off. I, the true creator, have given you endless wealth and great power. What do you want to do? In the sky, the god who claimed to be the true creator didn't seem to care about Hardy's beliefs, but asked Hardy repeatedly. Grant me endless wealth and mighty power. Hardy was at a loss. When will the gods take the initiative to communicate with ordinary people, and give him endless wealth and the power to become a superior person? Hardy didn't know, but he lowered his head deeply. I hope to serve you by your side, to be your faithful servant of God, to be your saddle. Answer me. The true creator seemed a little furious. The void also trembled because of this, and the sky sent out rumbling thunder. At this moment, the upside-down cross, which was still sacred, seemed to be bathed in blood, as if burning blood, impacting Hardy's vision. I want to overthrow the world's classes and become the creator of a new world, so that people will no longer starve to death because of poverty. I want the power to change everything. Hardy seemed to be frightened, terrified and flustered as he spoke. He didn't dare to look at the changes in front of him. A pair of fearful eyes were tightly closed at this moment, fearing that they would desecrate the gods above. Ignorant lamb, do you know that the conditions needed to change the world are still difficult? Do you have this strength? The real creator seemed to be silent for a while, and did not reply to Hardy immediately. If you want to change the world, I will not give you great power, this power must be mastered by yourself. I really hope to see the day you successfully change the world, maybe you will be qualified to believe in me. My own strength. But how can I have power? Hardy looked at the real creator on the upside-down cross in puzzlement, suppressing the fear in his heart. He couldn't understand what kind of plan the god in front of him had. Chapter 89. Faith and Missionary. Sleeping in the ancient gods, wake up from the long sleep of time. I became the chosen saint of this god. After a sudden awakening, Hardy breathed the air frantically, as if he had never felt that the smelly air permeating the air was so fresh, as if it was the same as the air contained in the world the nobles lived in. It's so refreshing. Let the soul be washed in an instant, as if the body and mind have been purified. It's so relaxing and relaxing. Have I really become a saint of the gods? Hardy looked at his pale, calloused hands, and questioned himself in disbelief. Living in a dirty slum all year round, he will unexpectedly be chosen by the gods one day. 990 is not only that, but also became a believer of the gods, preparing for the awakening of the gods. All of this, like a dream, lingers in Hardy's mind, making Hardy still feel whether he is living in a dream. With his humble status, he deserves the attention of a god. He was also rewarded with a knight training method that only nobles or meritorious families can practice. As long as you practice hard, you will sooner or later become someone who can control the power and change the world. As for Backland, in this slum area, Hardy was not the only one who dreamed about the existence of gods. This night, in many people's dreams, two gods appear. Respectively, true creator, hiding above the eternal spiritual world, weaving the fate of all people with both hands, teasing history, and weaving the true and false creator. And Queen of the Abyss, Eye of the Abyss, destination of death, source of fall, Queen of calamity. The appearance of the two gods did not cause much disturbance in this slum. On the contrary, many poor people who dreamed of the two suspected neutral evil gods were spontaneously practicing the cultivation methods given. At the same time, in secret, seized the opportunity to spread the belief of God to the companions. And the strength they gained. Invisible changes are happening in the slums that have not been noticed. And Su Hao and Huang Qingyi, who were far away in the center of Backland, were also selecting suitable candidates from time to time to become believers they needed to develop. On several occasions, under the prayers of these believers, Su Hao reluctantly performed some small and large false divine spells. Gained a large number of followers. Huang Qingyi's development is also similar to Su Hao's. However, Huang Qingyi's sect and believers are all radical because of her honorable name and the name of a god full of dark styles. It seems to recognize the appearance, and then get closer to the gods. And during this time, Hardy is also practicing the knight training method given by Su Hao. Not only that, Hardy's knight training talent is also an unexpected dumpling. It is very easy to cultivate the seed of life. In 3 months, he has become a first-order epic knight cultivator. With the power gained from his own cultivation, he began to change his life, walked out of the filthy slums known as Backland, began to serve the nobles, and secretly developed his belief in the true creator. Many true creator believers in Backland slums are also headed by Hardy. He competed with another follower of the Abyss Demon Queen for the resources of believers in Backland slums, and there were even some minor sectarian disputes. In the end, it was the gods of their own family who gave out the oracle to stop the debate between the two gods. Under a strange peace, the group of believers is expanding. And these believers are also divided into general believers, true believers, pious believers, God believers, saints, holy spirits, and holy messengers. Hattie is finally going to walk out of the slums. My evil god sect will not be limited to Backland soon. The next day, Su Hao said with a smile on the corner of his mouth after washing up under the service of the maid. 3 months. The sects of Su Hao and Huang Xingyi had developed insignificantly in the slums of Backland, and each had developed groups of about 1,000 people. And the first to walk out of Backland slums were also followers of Su Hao. That is Hardy. This is Su Hao's first dream, and he valued believers. A guy with decent knight talent. In 3 months, he has become a first-order epic knight, as long as he has enough time and resources. No matter how poor Hardy's talent is, he can still reach the strength of a 5th-order knight. As for what strength he can reach, it all depends on Hardy's own efforts. Counting it all together, Kate can recruit Hardy to the Marquis of Horn's mansion today, so that I can see the growth of this believer more intuitively. Su Hao thought about it. Make Hardy a knight of the Marquis of Horns. It is equivalent to inserting one's own people into one's own home. This strange feeling also made Su Hao smile bitterly. However, this is also his best protection for Hardy. After all, how did a person who came out of the slums have the opportunity to come into contact with knight cultivation methods? Once someone with a heart pays attention to it, maybe they will pretend to find the source of everything. Su Hao must suppress this possible birth at the first moment. Master, Miss Mirola is here. A maid came over and said softly. Okay, take me there. Su Hao nodded faintly, making Kate keep in mind the matter of recruiting Hardy into the Marquis of Horn's residence. Or study. Only in the room of Su Hao and Huang Qingyi. The moment you walk in the door. Su Hao saw that Huang Qingyi was beside the bookshelf, flipping through a book of Saint Laurent continental history. You came. Huang Qingyi closed the pages of the book, put it on the shelf, and said to Su Hao in a blink of an eye. We haven't seen each other for a few days, and you've become a lot stronger. Huang Qingyi said with some frustration. She met Su Hao some time ago, and she was only a 3rd level mythical level 5.3, but now she has vaguely felt the invisible pressure. Obviously, Su Hao has broken through the 4th order. Became a knight of at least tier 4 silver rank, or even, with Su Hao's talent, maybe tier 4 star brilliance rank. As for Su Hao's mage strength, he is also steadily keeping up, at the 3rd tier legendary level. Soon, it will enter the 3rd tier epic rank, and one step ahead will be the 3rd tier mythical rank, and the 4th tier silver rank. Huang Qingyi could barely keep up with this speed of cultivation. After all, she majored in mages, and the knight profession was just a side job. As long as it could support her life support, she could survive the threat of life and death in the most difficult time. Unlike Su Hao. Su Hao is a knight profession and a co-major of writing mage profession. The delay of the two systems only delayed Su Hao's progress. Chapter 90. You're not bad either, and you've got a tier 4 silver level cultivation. Su Hao said with a smile, as if he didn't notice the bitterness in Huang Qingyi's mouth. He closed the door casually. I'm not like you. I'm so lucky. I have such a strong talent. Huang Qingyi said with a taste, and said, you don't know it recently. The two of us are in frequent contact, and some members of the Midi family want to match us up. There are 2. Speaking of which, Huang Qingyi seemed to have a headache. Hee, isn't that good? Anyway, you will get married sooner or later in this world, why not make it with me? Su Hao looked at Huang Qingyi and said. That's not impossible, as long as you want to. Huang Qingyi's beautiful eyes trembled slightly, and she said that she seemed to be joking with Su Hao. It seems that even if she and Su Hao are named husband and wife in the reincarnation world, she doesn't care. Then I have to think about it carefully. After all, I have to care about the continuation of the Horns family's bloodline. Su Hao listened, and if something happened, he said it very solemnly, with a serious expression on his face. But in Huang Qingyi's eyes, he knew this man, but he was just joking with her. There is no need for Su Hao to worry about the continuation of the Horns family's bloodline. 02. Above him, there are 2 older brothers. It will never be Su Hao's turn, and the inheritance system of the Intis kingdom is also the eldest son comes first, and then the second son. As long as the 2 brothers above didn't die by such a coincidence, The continuation of the Horn's family will not fall on Su Hao. However, even so, Huang Qingyi still couldn't help but jokingly said, "If you are worried, it's not that I can't accept having children with you in this world, and I'll only say that to you in my 10 lifetimes. No, no, I don't dare to mess with the future mistress of the Eternal Shrine, I'm afraid of being killed by the eyes." Su Hao showed a frightened expression. Afterwards, his face calmed down, and he said seriously, "How is the witch church over there? It is estimated that in half a month, one of my female believers will be out of the slums, and she may become a teacher of the Church of Knowledge." Huang Qingyi said proudly, and straightened her full and fleshy chest. Plump mountains. Like a jumping rabbit, it swayed in front of Su Hao's eyes. After taking a look, Su Hao tried his best to look away, and said, "My Hattie Knight has walked out of the slums, and there is a 4.5-star light mage who is valued by the Navy of the Kingdom of Intis, and may be able to enter the army ministry, slowly infiltrating. Then your development is much better than mine." After hearing this, Huang Qingyi couldn't help saying it with gusto. It is also the evil god belief that developed together. However, Su Hao's believers, not only in terms of strength, but even in terms of the masses are vaguely higher than the witch church controlled by her, and now 1 out of 10 will soon enter the Navy Department of the Chantis Kingdom. Especially the Navy Department, which is the military force most valued by the royal family of the Kingdom of Intis. Every year, many resources are arranged to be dumped. Increase the powerful strength of the Navy Department. For other military departments, it is difficult to enjoy the same or slightly inferior treatment as that of the Navy Department. My believer also happens to have a passable status. It is estimated that he will undergo another review before entering the Navy Department. Whether he can pass may depend on the destiny. Su Hao shook his head and said, just as he said. The believer who is about to be elected to the Navy's military department is only passable in status. His ancestors were once a declining nobleman in Backland, and he has a family history of becoming an extraordinary person. He barely made up some excuses and temporarily fooled him. For the rest, it depends on what the believer will do next. Also, what kind of review will the Navy Department give? That believer was able to enter the Navy Department, not only in terms of talent, but also in terms of attributes. It was also because of an accident that he bloomed his edge in the crowd. Anyway, it's just that you have developed better than me, Huang Qingyi said without listening to Su Hao's explanation. Strong is strong. She, Huang Qingyi, isn't so small yet, to the point where even such an inconspicuous matter has to fight with Su Hao. Actually, I came here this time to invite you to go to Saint Laurent Academy with me for further study. Do you think it is necessary to study at Saint Laurent Academy? Su Hao raised his eyebrows and said in surprise. Saint Laurent College. It is one of the several transcendent schools in Saint Laurent continent, with a long history. It is said that the Saint Laurent Academy was founded by the great sage who once rivaled the Sacred Dragon clan and the Titan Giant clan. It gathers the most elite extraordinary students from the Saint Laurent continent, and it is the source of the birth of human extraordinary powerhouses, continuously teaching top powerhouses one by one. For the continuation of human beings in Saint Laurent continent, he has made a great poisonous contribution. Even the founders of several schools that are as famous as the Saint Laurent School all came out of the Saint Laurent School. Why do you want to go to Saint Laurent to study? Su Hao asked puzzled. Going to Saint Laurent Academy for further study is somewhat inconsistent with Huang Qingyi's attitude before. Although Huang Qingyi didn't say it clearly, Su Hao could also feel that Huang Qingyi didn't have much affection for the schools in the Saint Laurent continent. Even he himself was the same. He didn't take Saint Laurent Academy or anything to heart. It's just practicing on your own. It's nothing. I just want to go to 617 to see it all of a sudden. Besides, you want the seed of life to coexist with the source of magic. Maybe it can be solved in Saint Laurent Institute. It's useless for us to practice in one place all the time, since you want to participate in the upcoming battle of gods. Then do we have to take the initiative to search for geniuses on St. Lawrence continent? We rely on our weak believers, but we are not qualified to participate. How about it? Do you want to go to Saint Laurent Academy for further study? Huang Qingyi invited again and said. Okay. Su Hao nodded silently, and felt that what Huang Qingyi said was right. Although no one on San Laurent continent has been able to make the source of magic and the seed of life coexist, Suji can actively develop research in this area. At that time, Huang Qingyi will also be pulled together to help deduce. Su Hao didn't want to give up on the practice system on the fantasy side. He also wants to try to integrate the cultivation system on the fantasy side with the vast profound art he deduced before, so as to turn the system into a truly all-encompassing, diverse and endless. It is also an attempt. Okay, since you have agreed, then we will leave San Laurent Academy in a month's time. Huang Qingyi said in a tone that almost jumped up excitedly. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.